A lot of people disagree with me on saying this, but in my opinion, it is probably there has not and probably might not be a better time to be in academia than it is right now. My name is Uttam. I am a second year master's student at Delft University of Technology in the Netherlands. I have done my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from a private college in Bangalore. It goes by the name of BMS College of Engineering from 2013 to 2017. I really enjoyed my academic course of 4 years, 3 years of mechanical, and the first year is usually generally all disciplines. You just do a course on all disciplines. I'm sure a lot of people would have heard, or you would have received advice that do an internship in your engineering, or probably take up a research position or anything like that in your second or third year. And to be honest, in fact, I tried quite a bit after first year, after second year, and after third year. So I applied to a bunch of places for summer research fellowship, this internship, that internship, and I sent out at least 200 to 300 applications, but really did not receive any sort of response. And this also sort of got me thinking. And in hindsight, this is something that I would advise people, is that the 2.5 to 3 months that you get in between your first and your second year, or between a semester break that you get, in my opinion, is too short a period. In hindsight, I feel is too short a period to do an internship. I feel that even if I had got an internship in these 2 months, I would not have had the learning outcome that I would have expected. So I feel I did not lose out on much, but of course, a lot of people will disagree with me. But this is what I feel. Instead, I decided to do something that was more, that was something which I wouldn't get out of a conventional internship, out of a conventional technical internship. So I did a lot of volunteering activities. So I would say that if you do not get your internships, or if you're not able to secure a position, it is absolutely all right. And you will not be losing out on as much as you thought that you would. It so happened that that particular year, usually PSUs, or public sector undertakings, do not go out for campus placements in private colleges. At least most private colleges don't host them unless they're a really big name. It's usually government colleges that have these as placement. But that particular year, we had Bharat Electronics Limited. It's one of India's defense electronic manufacturing, the best defense electronic manufacturing firm. Not to be confused with BHEL. So Bharat Electronics Limited were coming to my college for campus placement. It was paying well, of course. They say like sarkari naukri, so it was paying really well. And I was like, okay, let's maybe give it a shot. And I gave the written exam. It was about 150 people who gave the written exam, and about 6 of them got selected. So I think it was a pretty difficult written exam. And for a change, I did prepare for it, because I was like, okay, let me just go wing the other written exams. And pro tip, in hindsight, please study for your placements. Don't neglect it. That's something which I did, which wasn't, I mean, more of that later. But I prepared for BEL, and I gave the written exam. I cleared it. And then I went to the interview. And the interview was a great experience, because the interviewer had worked in ISRO for about 10 years. And when he asked me about the project, so my project was thrust vectoring, which was a sort of more of like a space related, propulsion related concept. And he got really interested, and we spoke about it for almost half an hour, and it was really nice. So yeah, I mean, you never know what will come in handy where. So just try to absorb as much information as you can in your 4 years. So that is another sort of tip. Thinking back, I think one of the best decisions that I made, apart from, like, of course, picking engineering, which I don't regret at all, one of the best decisions that I made was to sit for that BEL placement. And believe me, you don't know how life can surprise you, because a lot of people told me, सरकारी नौकरी कुछ नहीं चलेगा, वहां पे काम नहीं चलेगा, काम नहीं करेगा, blah blah blah. Life तो set है, लेकिन you'll just sort of rot away, not do anything. Not at all. I started on my first day. Believe it or not, I went to work at 7:30 a.m. I got home at 10 p.m. This was my first day of a government job, of a government job. So please don't, please bust those myths about government jobs. Things do happen there. And yeah, just be proud of it, is all I have to say. It was almost like a startup working for 2 years. But I also realized that in the long term, this is not something that I would be able to do, because I felt that, although this is a great venture to, see how it is, to sort of get an idea of what manufacturing is, of what working in an industry is, I sort of realized that this is not my sort of long-term goal. And the interest in aerospace, because of the 2 years project that we did in college, really kept coming back to me. And that's when I decided that, okay, I think I should really opt for a career in aerospace, sort of shift careers. And I was also told by a lot of people that shifting careers earlier on in your life is a lot easier than when you're, say, 30, 35. So I thought, okay, I have the time now, so it's probably a great time to shift to aerospace. I was looking up on universities, and of course, US, first thing that comes to anyone's mind. I did look up on US, but I don't know if most of you are aware, but there are a lot of security clearances that are required to work in aerospace companies in US. In fact, it's there all over the world, but more so in US. It's called ITAR, which you can definitely find a lot about on the internet. Where to look next? So looked at Australia, looked at Singapore, and of course looked at Europe. But in Europe, in Germany, most of the courses were free, of course, but they were offered in German, and English courses for aerospace was very few. Because I worked for a couple of years, I sort of realized that I would want a course which stresses on research as much as it does on industrial exposure. In other words, I wanted a course which had a mandatory internship, because I realized that if the internship was not mandatory, I'm not going to look for it, because you don't have the motivation to sort of look for an internship in a foreign country if everything is going well, you're enjoying, you're traveling, Europe, great. So I found this course in TU Delft, Aerospace Masters in Aerospace Engineering, which had a mandatory internship. The application process started in the month of October. The deadline was January 15th for the fall admission, which is September 1st. I did take some help from an admission agency, but that was only for the US universities. So you get a list, you need to provide them with a list of universities that you would like to go to, and they would sort of help you in the process, like, tell you, okay, this has to be done next, this has to be done next, and so on. They also helped with the SOP, which of course I wrote, and they had to edit it and modify it. But then TU Delft was the only university, in fact, for which I did not take their help with SOP. I decided, okay, this is something that I'm serious, and I would like to write this on my own. And believe me, biggest advice: do not take the help of admission agencies, because I think admission is something that's a very personal process, and you do not want to involve many people. Great grades followed by a good GRE score, which I would say about 320 or so, average GRE score, and a well-written, clear, and concise and motivated statement of purpose, or SOP, goes a long, long way. I took a lot of time to write my SOP. It took about a month for Delft, and I feel that really made all the difference. So that's a big myth buster, that grades are not important. Grades are very much important. And yeah, I started early, which was really helpful. I started in August so that I could submit by October. So when the applications opened on October 15th, I submitted on October 15th, in fact. So I'm sure the admissions committee must have felt, oh, okay, we just opened it and we got an application today. So it's really important to sort of send in your applications early. It really makes a difference. So that is another important thing that I would keep in mind. So mine was funded through an education loan. And biggest advice is that do your cost analysis before you go. keep rough figures in mind. Like I was looking up on the median salaries for aerospace graduates in Europe and sort of compared it with the repayment period, what is the interest, how long I would take to repay, and did a little bit of very simple basic math. So if you have anywhere between 3 to 5 years of repayment period, I would say that is very, very favorable. Anything more than 5 is not so good. And also considering that I worked for 2 years and I was 24 when I left, as against 21 or in fact 22, and most people leave. Yeah, I don't want to be repaying loans into my 30s. So that was something that I also had in mind. So do this calculation of how much it would cost to sort of repay your loans, which is a very, very important thing. If you're taking an education loan, God forbid, you should not. I mean, scholarship is the most ideal situation. So that is an important thing to keep in mind, because cost is, of course, a major player. I don't know if many people know this, but in in TU Delft, I don't know if it's the same in other universities, they follow a quarterly system. They don't follow a semester system like the United States, where they have, I think, 2 major portions in a year. In the Netherlands, they have 4 major portions in a year, which means each quarter has 7 weeks of coursework, and you have like 4 to 5 subjects in 7 weeks, master level subjects. And yeah, and then you finish it, you don't get a break, you go on to the next one. So it was really, really, really intense. The first 1 year was, I think, the most intense study that I have ever done. Because we have a mandatory internship in second year, we had to start looking for internships, which was pretty difficult to find. And I had a bunch of interviews, and I interviewed with Dassault. People who are in tech would have heard of Dassault Systems, CATIA, SolidWorks, all these products. They're the creators and owners of these products. A lot of concern that students and parents alike have before sending their children abroad is the job prospect. So in India, we are sort of conditioned to thinking that, so final year my placements hoga, you sit for placements and you can get a job. But the way things work outside of India is a little different, and that can be intimidating for sure. And as you rightly said, nobody can give an idea of how things are going to be in terms of the job situation after you graduate. But in terms of aerospace and in Europe, I feel that there is a lot of opportunities right now. And the advantage of being in Europe is because since Europe is so big and has so many countries, they are very used to having people who are not from the same country coming and working for them. So broadly speaking, in terms of the job market, it is not as bad as people might think because of the pandemic specifically, or because of the fact that you are an international student. A lot of people disagree with me on saying this, but in my opinion, it is probably there has not and probably might not be a better time to be in academia than it is right now. Because during the pandemic, a lot of advantages of being in the academia. One is that you don't have to worry about finding a job because you are studying. So you have something to do at least for 2 years. And I'm sure, and I hope that the pandemic does not go on for the next 2 years. You have something to do. So that is the first thing. Secondly, I agree that the cost incurred is high, and maybe the returns is not justifiable for the amount of cost that is incurred. But I would say that picking up the knowledge right now would be, you will be valued more as a person with a master's degree in 2 years when the pandemic effects are sort of gone and industries are opening up, rather than someone who has been unemployed or has been doing disconnected things for 2 years.